The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the cramped break room of Patterson and Associates Insurance, casting harsh shadows across Sarah's weathered hands as she unwrapped her homemade sandwich. At 54, she had spent nearly 3 decades filing papers, answering phones, and watching younger employees climb the corporate ladder, while she remained invisible behind her desk. The conversation at the neighboring table made her stomach clench with familiar dread. "Did you hear Sarah's latest fantasy?" Jessica, the 28-year-old marketing coordinator, whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "She thinks she's going to start some kind of handmade jewelry business from her garage." The laughter that followed was sharp and cutting, each chuckle feeling like a small knife to Sarah's already fragile confidence. Robert from accounting leaned back in his plastic chair, smirking as he stirred his instant coffee with deliberate slowness. "Oh, that's rich. What's next, Sarah's? Going to tell us she's the next Martha Stewart?" His voice dripped with sarcasm, and Sarah could feel the familiar burn of shame spreading across her cheeks like wildfire. The sandwich in her hands suddenly felt like cardboard, tasteless and impossible to swallow as her throat constricted with unshed tears. She had made the mistake of sharing her dream with Linda during a vulnerable moment last week, describing how she had been secretly collecting vintage beads and studying jewelry making, tutorials online. Now that private hope had become public entertainment, twisted into something ridiculous and pathetic, Jessica's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her smartphone screen as she continued her performance for their captive audience. "I mean, seriously, who does she think is going to buy homemade trinkets in 2023? Everyone shops online from real brands now. It's not like people are lining up for amateur hour craft projects." The words hit Sarah like physical blows, each syllable designed to diminish and dismiss her carefully nurtured aspirations. She forced herself to take small, measured bites of her sandwich, maintaining the facade of indifference while internally crumbling under their collective judgment. Marcus, the youngest member of their team, joined the chorus with cruel enthusiasm. "Maybe she can sell them at garage sales next to her old exercise equipment," he snickered, causing another wave of laughter to ripple through the break room. Sarah's hands trembled almost imperceptibly as she reached for her water bottle, the plastic crinkling under her white-knuckled grip. The familiar ache of decades-old insecurities bloomed in her chest, whispering that perhaps they were right, that dreams were for people like them, young, confident, connected. The institutional green walls seemed to close in around her, the smell of reheated microwave meals and stale coffee becoming suffocating. Yet somewhere deep beneath the humiliation, a tiny flame of defiance flickered, fed by years of quiet determination and the memory of her grandmother's gentle hands, teaching her to create beauty from simple materials. Sarah straightened her shoulders almost imperceptibly, swallowing both her sandwich and her tears, already planning her next move in the solitude of her mind where their mockery couldn't reach. That evening, sitting in her garage workshop surrounded by boxes of carefully sorted beads and findings, Sarah's fingers worked methodically through her latest creation while their cruel words echoed in her mind like background noise to her determination. The delicate silver wire bent perfectly under her practiced touch as she crafted an intricate pendant, each twist and curve a testament to the skills she had been developing in secret for months. Her late husband's workbench had been transformed into a jeweler's paradise, complete with proper lighting, organizing trays, and professional tools she had quietly purchased with her savings. As she held up the finished piece, a stunning butterfly design that seemed to capture light and scatter it in rainbow fragments, Sarah felt something shift inside her chest, a quiet certainty that had nothing to do with their approval or disapproval. The garage workshop felt more like home than any cubicle ever had, filled with possibilities they couldn't begin to comprehend. And tomorrow she would start proving them wrong, one beautiful creation at a time. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Sarah's hands, which had grown stiff and uninspired from decades of paperwork, came alive as they learned to bend silver wire into elegant curves and set stones with precision that surprised even Maria. Her first piece was a simple pendant featuring a smooth river rock wrapped in copper wire, but when she held it up to the light, it caught the fluorescent bulbs and threw rainbows across the classroom wall. The other students gathered around, offering genuine praise that felt foreign and wonderful after so many years of invisibility. "Sarah, you have an incredible eye for proportion," Maria observed, examining the pendant with professional appreciation. "This isn't beginner's work. This is the result of an artist who's been seeing beauty all her life and finally has the tools to express it." Each evening, Sarah found herself lingering after class, reluctant to return to her quiet apartment, where the silence felt less lonely now that it was filled with possibility. The warmth of the studio, the gentle guidance from Maria, and the camaraderie with her fellow students created a sanctuary where Sarah's true self could finally breathe. At Patterson and Associates, the ridicule continued with renewed vigor as Sarah began wearing her own creations to work. Jessica would lean over her cubicle wall with exaggerated interest, asking loudly if Sarah was planning to quit her day job anytime soon. Mark from accounting made jokes about Sarah's retirement hobby, while others wondered aloud if she was going through some kind of midlife crisis. The comments followed her to the copy machine, into the elevator, and even into the bathroom, creating a constant soundtrack of doubt and derision that might have crushed a weaker spirit. But something had fundamentally changed in Sarah during those evening classes. Each snide remark only served to fuel her determination, each laugh adding kindling to the fire that now burned steadily in her belly. When Jessica mockingly asked, "Don't you think you're a little old to be playing with beads?" Sarah simply smiled and adjusted the intricate silver bracelet on her wrist, feeling its weight like armor against their cruelty. Sarah began staying up late into the night, her kitchen table transformed into a makeshift studio where she experimented with different techniques and materials. She documented her progress with photographs, creating a portfolio that showed her rapid evolution from tentative beginner to confident artisan. The pieces grew more sophisticated, intricate earrings that featured hand-forged silver elements, necklaces that combined multiple metals and stones in unexpected harmony, bracelets that seemed to capture the very essence of movement and light. Her small apartment began to fill with completed pieces, each one representing hours of focused creativity and growing skill. The familiar ache in her lower back from hunching over detailed work felt different from the pain she'd carried from years at her desk job. This was the sweet exhaustion of passion, the physical reminder of time spent creating rather than merely existing. Maria recognized Sarah's exceptional progress and suggested she enter a piece in the annual Hudson Valley Arts Festival, a prestigious event that attracted collectors and gallery owners from across the Northeast. The suggestion both thrilled and terrified Sarah, who had never imagined her work being judged alongside established artists. But the encouragement of her classmates and the steady growth of her confidence convinced her to submit a stunning necklace she had created, a piece that featured hand-cut tourmaline stones wrapped in gold-filled wire and suspended from a delicate chain she had forged herself. The application process required photographs, an artist's statement, and a leap of faith that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. As Sarah wrote about her journey from insurance processor to jewelry artist, she realized she was finally ready to claim her identity as a creator, regardless of what her co-workers might think. You know, dear friends, there's something magical that happens when we stop listening to the voices that tell us we're too old, too inexperienced, or too ordinary to pursue our dreams. Sarah was discovering that creativity doesn't diminish with age. It deepens, becomes richer with life experience, and the wisdom that comes from truly knowing ourselves. If you're feeling inspired by Sarah's courage to continue despite the mockery, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what dream you've been putting off. Your story matters, and this community is here to cheer you on. Together, we can prove that it's never too late to become who we were meant to be. The notification email arrived on a Tuesday morning while Sarah was processing insurance claims, her mind half focused on a particularly intricate ring design she was planning for that evening's work session. The subject line made her heart skip. Hudson Valley Arts Festival. Congratulations. Her hands trembled as she opened the email, reading the words that would change everything. Not only had her necklace been accepted into the festival, but it had been selected as one of the featured pieces in the fine jewelry category. The email included details about the opening reception, media interviews, and the expectation that participating artists would be available to discuss their work with collectors and press throughout the weekend event. Sarah had to read the congratulatory message twice before the reality settled in. Her work would be displayed alongside established artists whose names she recognized from gallery exhibitions and art magazines. The festival organizers had specifically mentioned the remarkable technical skill and unique artistic vision demonstrated in her submission, words that felt like a warm embrace after years of being invisible in the corporate world. She closed her laptop carefully, afraid that sudden movement might somehow undo this miraculous turn of events, and for the first time in months, she found herself genuinely excited about what tomorrow might bring. Sarah read the email 3 times before the reality fully sank in. She looked around the drab office, at her co-workers hunched over their desks, at the motivational posters that promised rewards for teamwork and dedication, and felt as though she was seeing everything through new eyes. This was her moment of truth, the point, where her secret evening passion would either validate her dreams or confirm her critics' predictions about middle-aged foolishness. But as she reread Maria's personal note at the bottom of the acceptance email, praising her unique vision and technical skill, Sarah felt a surge of pride that had been dormant for too many years. The Hudson Valley Arts Festival stretched across 3 days in late September, transforming the historic riverfront district into an outdoor gallery that attracted thousands of visitors and dozens of regional news outlets. Sarah had requested vacation time from Patterson and Associates, claiming a family obligation that wasn't entirely untrue. She was finally honoring her obligation to the artistic family she had never known she belonged to. Her booth was positioned between a renowned potter whose work sold for thousands of dollars and a sculptor whose bronze pieces graced public spaces throughout New York State. The company felt intimidating and inspiring in equal measure, but Sarah had learned to channel her nervousness into focused energy that enhanced rather than hindered her performance. The opening reception on Friday evening drew an elegant crowd of collectors, gallery owners, and art enthusiasts who moved through the booths with practiced eyes and discerning tastes. Sarah had chosen to wear her own jewelry for the event, a sophisticated set that included the accepted necklace, matching earrings she had completed specifically for the show, and a bracelet that caught and reflected the string lights overhead. The effect was stunning, creating a living advertisement for her work that drew visitors to her booth before they even realized what had captured their attention. Her display was carefully curated to show range and evolution, from her earliest successful pieces to the complex works that represented her current skill level. A woman in an expensive coat paused at Sarah's booth, examining the pieces with the careful attention of someone who understood both craftsmanship and value. "These are extraordinary," she said, lifting the featured necklace to catch the light. "The wire work is flawless, and the stone selection shows real intuition. How long have you been creating?" Sarah felt her chest tighten with the familiar fear of inadequacy, but Maria's voice echoed in her memory. "Own your journey, Sarah. Every artist starts somewhere, and your somewhere is valid." With a deep breath, Sarah smiled and replied, "I've been dreaming of this for decades, but I finally found the courage to begin 8 months ago. Every piece represents a part of that journey from fear to fulfillment." The conversation that followed lasted nearly an hour, during which Sarah learned that her admirer was Catherine Morrison, the owner of Morrison Gallery in Manhattan, one of the most respected venues for contemporary fine craft in the city. Catherine examined each piece in Sarah's display with growing interest, asking technical questions about materials and methods that Sarah answered with increasing confidence. "I'm particularly drawn to this series," Catherine said, indicating 3 necklaces that shared a common aesthetic thread. "The way you've combined traditional wire wrapping with contemporary design sensibilities is remarkable. These pieces speak to collectors who appreciate both innovation and craftsmanship." As the evening progressed, Sarah sold 6 pieces to various collectors, each transaction feeling like a small miracle that validated not just her artistic ability, but her fundamental belief in herself. The conversations were rich and meaningful, with buyers asking about her inspiration and process with genuine curiosity and respect. One elderly gentleman shared that Sarah's work reminded him of pieces his grandmother had treasured, created by artisans who understood that jewelry should tell a story as well as adorn the wearer. These connections, artist to collector, creator to appreciator, felt more valuable than the monetary transactions, though the growing collection of business cards and commission requests in her pocket represented a financial success beyond her wildest projections. The most significant moment came near the end of the evening when a young reporter from the Hudson Valley Arts Journal approached Sarah's booth with a photographer in tow. "I've been covering this festival for 5 years," the reporter explained, "and your story is exactly what our readers want to hear about. A woman who started her artistic journey later in life and achieved this level of success so quickly. It's inspirational. Would you be willing to do a brief interview?" Sarah's first instinct was to deflect, to minimize her achievements and redirect attention elsewhere, but the faces of her co-workers flashed through her mind, along with their dismissive laughter and condescending comments. This was her moment to stand tall in her truth. The interview was scheduled for the following afternoon, giving Sarah time to process the overwhelming success of her first major show. She walked back to her hotel room, carrying a folder full of business cards, commission requests, and contact information from gallery owners across the region. The financial success was gratifying. She had earned more in one evening than her monthly salary at Patterson and Associates. But the emotional victory felt even more profound. She had proven to herself that dreams deferred are not necessarily dreams. Denied that creativity and determination could triumph over age and inexperience when combined with genuine passion and persistent effort. Saturday's interview took place in front of Sarah's booth, with festival visitors pausing to listen as the reporter asked about her journey from office worker to successful artisan. Sarah spoke honestly about the challenges of starting over at 54, the importance of finding supportive mentors like Maria, and the way that initial mockery from co-workers had ultimately motivated rather than discouraged her pursuit of artistic fulfillment. "I think many people assume that certain dreams have expiration dates," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. "But creativity doesn't age, passion doesn't diminish, and it's never too late to honor the artist within yourself." The photographer captured Sarah in her element, surrounded by her jewelry and speaking with the confident authority of someone who had found her true calling. Her hands moved gracefully as she explained each piece's inspiration, her voice steady and passionate, despite the camera's intimidating presence. "This particular necklace was born from a dream about my grandmother's garden," she told the reporter, her fingers tracing the delicate silver leaves that cascaded like morning dew. The images would later accompany an article that would change everything, but in that moment, Sarah was simply grateful for the opportunity to share her story with others who might be harboring similar dreams beneath layers of practicality and fear. The photographer nodded encouragingly, capturing not just her creations, but the radiant confidence that seemed to emanate from her very being. The reporter seemed particularly interested in the timeline of Sarah's transformation, the way 8 months of dedicated study and practice had yielded professional-level results that impressed seasoned collectors and gallery owners. As she spoke about her journey, Sarah found herself articulating truths she hadn't fully recognized before, how the years of suppressed creativity had finally erupted like a dam breaking, flooding her life with purpose and possibility she never imagined could be hers. Sunday brought the festival's conclusion and an opportunity for Sarah to connect with other artisans who had similar stories of late-in-life career changes and artistic awakenings. She learned that her experience was far from unique, that creativity often blooms most beautifully when it's nurtured by life experience, wisdom, and the kind of desperate hunger that comes from years of unfulfilled longing. A ceramic artist named Robert shared that he had left a career in banking at 60 to pursue pottery, while Elena, who created stunning textile art, had been a school principal before discovering her passion for fiber arts at 58. These conversations created a network of support and understanding that felt like family. Robert's weathered hands gestured animatedly as he described the terror and exhilaration of walking away from financial security to follow an artistic calling. "People thought I was having a midlife crisis," he laughed, his eyes crinkling with genuine joy. "But I knew I was finally having a midlife awakening. There's a difference between running from something and running towards something that's been calling your name for decades." The drive home from the festival was meditative and transformative. Sarah's car was filled with the tangible evidence of her success: sold pieces carefully packaged for shipping, new inventory inspired by conversations with collectors, and a commission list that would keep her busy for months. But the most valuable cargo was intangible: a fundamental shift in how she saw herself and her place in the world. She was no longer Sarah the secretary who happened to make jewelry as a hobby. She was Sarah Mitchell, artisan and businesswoman, whose work was worthy of gallery representation and media attention. Monday morning at Patterson and Associates felt surreal. Sarah returned to her cubicle with the same coffee mug and familiar routine, but everything had changed in ways her coworkers couldn't yet see. She processed insurance claims with mechanical efficiency while her mind planned new designs and considered the logistics of managing commission work alongside her day job. The mockery had temporarily subsided, replaced by the office's typical Monday morning lethargy, but Sarah knew it would resume. Once her colleagues learned about her festival success, she wasn't dreading their reactions anymore. She was anticipating them with a mixture of amusement and vindication. The article appeared in the Wednesday edition of the Hudson Valley Arts Journal, both in print and online, featuring Sarah's photograph prominently on the arts section front page. The headline read, "Local Secretary Becomes Acclaimed Artisan, Sarah Mitchell's Jewelry," featured at prestigious Hudson Valley Arts Festival. The story was thorough and well-written, chronicling Sarah's journey from secret dreamer to recognized artist in compelling detail. It mentioned her age, her day job, and the rapid progression of her skills under Maria's guidance, painting a picture of determination, triumphing over circumstance that resonated with readers across the region. The online version of the article was shared hundreds of times across social media platforms, generating comments from strangers who found inspiration in Sarah's story. Local news outlets picked up the story, and by Thursday morning, Sarah was fielding interview requests from radio stations and lifestyle bloggers who wanted to explore the theme of midlife career changes and artistic fulfillment. The attention was both thrilling and overwhelming for someone who had spent decades in the background, but Sarah embraced each opportunity to share her message that dreams don't have expiration dates. Friday morning brought the moment Sarah had been unconsciously preparing for since the festival ended. Jessica arrived at the office with her usual dramatic flair, clutching a printed copy of the Arts Journal article and wearing an expression of shocked disbelief. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the paper as she processed what she was reading, her mouth slightly agape with surprise. "Did everyone see this?" she announced to the office at large, her voice carrying across the cubicle farm like a siren. "Our Sarah is apparently some kind of famous jewelry artist now." The tone was incredulous rather than congratulatory, as though Sarah's success was an elaborate hoax that would soon be exposed. But as co-workers gathered around Jessica's desk to examine the article and its accompanying photographs, the evidence was undeniable. The reaction was swift and varied. Some colleagues offered genuine congratulations, admitting they had never realized the extent of Sarah's artistic talent or the seriousness of her pursuit. Others seemed resentful, as though Sarah's success somehow diminished their own life choices or challenged their assumptions about aging and potential. Mark from accounting studied the article with particular intensity before approaching Sarah's cubicle with a mixture of confusion and grudging respect. "I have to admit, Sarah, I never thought you'd actually pull this off. But seeing your work in the newspaper, reading about gallery representation, that's pretty impressive for someone who just started this whole thing." Michael Thompson's reaction was perhaps the most complex and revealing. As office manager, he had been particularly vocal about Sarah's impractical dreams and the foolishness of career changes at her age. The article forced him to confront the possibility that his cynicism had been wrong, that his supposedly realistic assessment of Sarah's chances had been clouded by his own fears and limitations. He approached Sarah's desk with uncharacteristic humility, holding the newspaper article in hands. That seemed less steady than usual. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. When you first mentioned this jewelry business, I thought I was being helpful by managing your expectations. But looking at this article, seeing what you've accomplished in such a short time, I realize I was projecting my own doubts onto your dreams." His voice carried a weight of regret that surprised even him, the admission feeling like releasing a breath he had been holding for decades. Sarah watched as this man who had always projected such certainty about practical matters now struggled with the vulnerability of being wrong about something so fundamental. The fluorescent office lighting seemed harsher somehow, casting shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights spent reconsidering not just his assessment of her abilities, but his own life choices. "I keep thinking about all the times I talked myself out of taking chances," Michael continued, his usual authoritative tone replaced by something much more human and uncertain. "Maybe if I had listened to my own dreams with even half the determination you've shown, I wouldn't be standing here feeling like such a fool." The conversation that followed was awkward but necessary, touching on themes of age discrimination, gender bias, and the ways that well-meaning colleagues can inadvertently discourage innovation and risk-taking. Michael admitted that his reaction to Sarah's artistic pursuits had been influenced by his own abandoned dreams of writing. Novels, projects that he had shelved decades ago when life became complicated by mortgages and family responsibilities. "Seeing your success makes me wonder what would have happened if I had been braver," he confessed. "Instead of discouraging others, maybe I should have been encouraging myself to take similar risks." The week brought a steady stream of media attention that transformed Sarah's quiet life into something resembling a small-scale media phenomenon. Local television stations interviewed her during lunch breaks, capturing footage of her at work in her makeshift kitchen studio and discussing her pieces with the expertise of someone who had been studying the craft for years rather than months. The contrast between her mundane office environment and her artistic achievements created a compelling narrative that resonated with viewers who harbored their own creative aspirations. Catherine Morrison called with an offer that would test Sarah's commitment to her newfound career. The Manhattan Gallery wanted to feature Sarah's work in a group show of emerging artisans, with the potential for a solo exhibition if sales and critical reception were favorable. The opportunity represented validation at the highest level, but it would require Sarah to produce a significant body of new work within a tight timeline. "I believe your pieces will resonate strongly with our urban collectors," Catherine explained. "There's something both timeless and contemporary about your aesthetic that speaks to people who understand quality craftsmanship." The commission requests continued to pour in through email and phone calls, with clients specifically seeking out Sarah's work after seeing the newspaper article or subsequent media coverage. Each inquiry represented not just financial opportunity, but artistic validation, proof that her vision and skills had reached a level that commanded professional respect and compensation. Sarah found herself quoting prices that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Prices that reflected the true value of handcrafted artisan jewelry rather than the hobby-level expectations she had initially held for herself. My dear friends, I want to pause here for a moment because Sarah's story is teaching us something so important about the power of persistence in the face of doubt. How many dreams have we abandoned, not because they were impossible, but because the people around us convinced us they were impractical? Sarah's transformation from mocked secretary to celebrated artisan didn't happen overnight, but it happened because she chose to believe in herself when no one else would. If this story is touching your heart and inspiring you to reconsider your own abandoned dreams, please subscribe to our channel and share your story in the comments below. What creative passion have you been putting off? What would you pursue if you knew you couldn't fail? Your dreams matter, and it's never too late to begin honoring them. The practical challenges of managing commission work while maintaining her day job created stress, but also excitement, as Sarah realized she was approaching a crossroads that would define the next chapter of her life. Working late into the night and throughout weekends, she created pieces that consistently exceeded client expectations and generated referrals to new customers. Her kitchen table studio had expanded to include a proper jeweler's bench, professional lighting, and storage. Systems that reflected her growing inventory and tool collection. The transformation of her physical space mirrored the transformation of her identity from hobbyist to professional artisan. The financial calculations became increasingly clear as autumn progressed toward winter. Sarah's jewelry income was now exceeding her salary from Patterson and Associates, and the trajectory suggested that within months, her artistic work would be generating more revenue than her administrative job ever had. The security of a steady paycheck was appealing, but the growth potential of her jewelry business was undeniable. Moreover, the emotional fulfillment of creating beautiful objects that brought joy to their wearers felt infinitely more valuable than processing insurance paperwork for clients she would never meet. December arrived with an unexpected development that would force Sarah's hand regarding her future career path. The group exhibition at Morrison Gallery was scheduled for February, but Catherine Morrison called with an urgent request that would accelerate Sarah's timeline significantly. A prominent collector who specialized in contemporary fine craft had seen photographs of Sarah's work and wanted to commission a complete jewelry suite, necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring, as a Christmas gift for his wife. The timeline was tight, the specifications were demanding, and the compensation was more than Sarah typically earned in 3 months at her day job. Sarah's heart pounded. As she gripped the phone, Catherine's voice crackling with excitement on the other end. "He's offering $15,000 for the complete set, Sarah. This could change everything for you." The number felt surreal, floating in her mind like something from someone else's life. She glanced around her cramped apartment studio, taking in the modest tools and makeshift workspace that had birthed her dreams, wondering if she was truly ready for such an enormous leap. Her hands trembled as she sat down. The phone, the weight of possibility pressing against her chest like a physical force. $15,000 represented freedom, validation, and terror, all wrapped into one life-altering moment that demanded immediate courage. The phone call ended, but her pulse continued racing, echoing through the silence like thunder after lightning strikes. The commission required techniques Sarah had not yet mastered, pushing her to expand her skills under extreme time pressure. She enrolled in advanced metalsmithing classes, working with Maria during private sessions that stretched long into winter evenings. The learning curve was steep, but Sarah's determination and natural aptitude for the craft carried her through challenges that might have defeated a less motivated student. Each technique she mastered opened new creative possibilities, and the commission piece evolved into something that exceeded even her own expectations for sophistication and beauty. Maria's weathered hands guided hers. Through complex soldering techniques, her voice patient but firm. "Feel the metal's temperature, mija. It will tell you when it's ready." The workshop smelled of flux and burning metal, the torch flame dancing blue and orange as Sarah learned to coax precious metals into submission. Her fingers bore small burns and cuts, badges of honor that marked her transformation from amateur enthusiast to serious artisan. The physical demands of maintaining 2 careers began to take their toll. Sarah was working 12-hour days between her office job and her jewelry studio, surviving on minimal sleep and sustained by caffeine and creative adrenaline. Her coworkers noticed her fatigue, but attributed it to the stress of sudden fame rather than the practical challenge of building a business while fulfilling existing employment obligations. Jessica, whose mockery had transformed into grudging respect, occasionally offered to help with Sarah's administrative tasks, though Sarah suspected the gesture was motivated more by curiosity about her growing success than genuine altruism. The completed commission was stunning, a coordinated suite that showcased Sarah's evolving mastery of advanced techniques while maintaining the distinctive aesthetic vision that had attracted Catherine Morrison's attention. The client's reaction exceeded all expectations, with his wife reportedly moved to tears by the beauty and craftsmanship of pieces that had been created specifically for her by an artist whose work was gaining national recognition. The photographs he shared on social media generated dozens of new commission inquiries, creating a backlog of work that made Sarah's decision about her future increasingly urgent. Patterson and Associates had been patient with Sarah's media obligations and the occasional interruption of business calls during work hours. But the situation was becoming unsustainable for everyone involved. Michael Thompson approached Sarah with a mixture of understanding and concern, acknowledging that her growing success was incompatible with the demands of full-time office work. "Sarah, we need to discuss your future here. I'm proud of what you've accomplished, and I understand that your jewelry business is taking off in ways none of us anticipated. But we need someone who can give this job their full attention, and it's obvious that your attention is rightfully focused elsewhere." The conversation was cordial and professional, with both parties recognizing that Sarah's departure from Patterson and Associates was inevitable and potentially beneficial for everyone involved. Michael offered to provide positive references and expressed genuine enthusiasm for Sarah's artistic career, a remarkable transformation from his initial skepticism about her creative pursuits. The company agreed to a gradual transition that would allow Sarah to train her replacement while completing her existing commission obligations, creating a bridge between her old life and her new career. The announcement of Sarah's resignation generated mixed reactions among her colleagues, ranging from genuine congratulations to thinly veiled envy from those who had been most vocal in their criticism of her artistic aspirations. Jessica's response was particularly revealing, combining admiration for Sarah's success with regret about her own career stagnation. "I keep thinking about how we all laughed when you first mentioned taking jewelry classes," she admitted during Sarah's farewell lunch. "You were brave enough to try something new, while the rest of us just complained about being stuck in jobs we don't really love. Maybe your story will inspire some of us to take our own risks." The final week at Patterson and Associates felt both nostalgic and liberating. Sarah cleaned out her desk drawers, discovering sketches and notes from her early jewelry-making days hidden beneath insurance forms and policy documents. The contrast between her tentative early designs and the sophisticated pieces she was now creating illustrated just how much growth was possible when passion met opportunity and persistence. Her cubicle, which had felt like a prison for so many years, now seemed like a launching pad that had supported her while she built the confidence and skills necessary for artistic independence. The transition from employee to full-time artisan was both exhilarating and terrifying. Sarah's home studio underwent a complete transformation, expanding beyond the kitchen table to occupy an entire room equipped with professional tools, proper ventilation, and storage systems that reflected her growing inventory of materials and completed pieces. The space felt sacred, a temple to creativity, where dreams were transformed into tangible beauty that would outlast its creator and bring joy to generations of wearers. The Morrison Gallery Group exhibition opened to critical acclaim and strong sales, with Sarah's pieces generating particular interest from collectors and jewelry enthusiasts who appreciated the combination of technical skill and artistic vision evident in her work. The opening reception was a far cry from her first tentative appearance at the Hudson Valley Arts Festival, with Sarah now comfortable in her role as a professional artist who could discuss her techniques and inspiration with authority and enthusiasm. The networking opportunities led to connections with other gallery owners, craft fair organizers, and potential collaborators who recognized her rapid rise in the fine craft community. Spring brought an opportunity that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier, a solo exhibition at Morrison Gallery featuring 24 of Sarah's most significant pieces, accompanied by a catalog essay written by a respected jewelry critic who praised her mature vision and exceptional technical execution. The exhibition title, Late Bloomer, The Jewelry Art of Sarah Mitchell, perfectly captured the essence of her journey from overlooked office worker to celebrated artisan. The opening reception drew collectors from across the region, with several pieces selling before the evening ended and the remaining inventory reserved by serious buyers within the first week. The success of the solo exhibition generated national attention, including features in craft magazines and jewelry trade publications that established Sarah as a significant new voice in contemporary fine craft. Orders poured in from galleries across the country, creating a demand that required Sarah to make difficult decisions about production capacity and artistic integrity. She chose to maintain her commitment to handcrafted quality over quantity, accepting only commissions and gallery relationships that aligned with her artistic vision and allowed her the time necessary to create pieces worthy of her growing reputation. The financial transformation was remarkable, but secondary to the personal fulfillment Sarah experienced daily in her studio. Her income had tripled compared to her office salary, but more importantly, she woke each morning eager to begin work that felt meaningful and aligned with her deepest creative instincts. The pieces she created carried emotional resonance that went far beyond their monetary value, becoming heirlooms that would connect future generations to the artistic vision of a woman who had refused to accept limitations imposed by age or circumstance. A year after leaving Patterson and Associates, Sarah received an invitation that brought her journey full circle. The company was hosting a holiday party, and Michael Thompson had specifically requested her attendance as a guest of honor whose story had become legendary within the office culture. Sarah arrived wearing her own jewelry, pieces that represented the evolution of her skills and the refinement of her artistic vision, and was greeted with genuine warmth by colleagues who had witnessed her transformation from invisible secretary to celebrated artist. The evening was filled with conversations that revealed how Sarah's courage had influenced others within the company. Linda had enrolled in photography classes, pursuing a lifelong interest in nature photography that had been dormant for decades. Mark from accounting had begun writing the novel he had outlined years earlier, inspired by Sarah's example of pursuing creative fulfillment despite practical obstacles. Even Jessica had made changes, leaving her marketing position to start a consulting business that utilized her communication skills in more meaningful ways. Michael Thompson's toast captured the significance of Sarah's journey not just for herself, but for everyone who had witnessed her transformation. Sarah Mitchell taught all of us that dreams don't have expiration dates, that courage is contagious, and that the biggest risk in life is not taking risks at all. Her success reminds us that it's never too late to honor the creative spirit within ourselves, and that age brings wisdom and perspective that can enhance rather than limit our artistic potential. As Sarah drove home that evening, she reflected on the remarkable journey that had begun with mockery in a break room and led to recognition as a significant voice in contemporary fine craft. The laughter of her former co-workers, once sharp and cutting, had been transformed into fuel for a creative fire that continued to burn brightly. She had proven that dreams deferred are not necessarily dreams denied, that passion and persistence could triumph over doubt and circumstance, and that the most beautiful art often emerges from the courage to begin again, regardless of age or previous experience. Her story had become larger than personal success. It was a testament to the transformative power of believing in oneself when no one else will, of finding mentors who nurture rather than discourage, and of refusing to accept other people's limitations as permanent truths. Sarah Mitchell, once invisible and overlooked, had become a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been told they were too old, too inexperienced, or too ordinary to pursue their dreams. Her jewelry would outlast her, but her example would inspire countless others to honor their own creative calling, regardless of when that calling made itself known.